I never thought a casual family reunion would lead me to discover the secret that would tear my cousin's marriage apart. It started like any other family gathering. Nothing too fancy, just a backyard barbecue at Jake and Rachel's place. Jake, my cousin, was the kind of guy everyone admired. He had it all: a great job, a beautiful wife, two adorable kids, and a home that looked like it had been featured in a lifestyle magazine. Whenever anyone in our family talked about what a perfect life looked like, Jake and Rachel were the gold standard. They had been married for over a decade, and throughout that time, they always seemed like the ideal couple, the kind that made you believe in the possibility of a happily ever after. I always admired them, even felt a little envious at times. Jake had built something solid and reliable. From the outside looking in, you couldn't find a single crack in their foundation. Rachel, in particular, was one of those people who seemed to have everything together. She was always the calm, steady force, organizing family events, helping out neighbors, and balancing a career with motherhood like it was no big deal. She was kind, caring, and always knew the right thing to say. I never would have suspected her of having any skeletons in her closet, least of all something that could destroy her marriage. But that day, at the family reunion, I started noticing small things, little details that didn't sit right with me. At first, it was just the subtle things. How her smile didn't quite reach her eyes when Jake was around, the way she avoided direct contact with him, even though they'd been the picture-perfect couple for years. And then there was the phone. The way Rachel kept checking it, glancing down at her screen, her thumb quickly swiping across the glass as if she didn't want anyone to notice. I dismissed it as her being stressed or maybe just caught up in work. We all had days like that, right? But the more I watched, the more uneasy I became. Rachel would step away from the crowd every now and then, her phone pressed against her ear, her voice too low for anyone to hear. Her expression would change in those moments, her face becoming serious, tense, almost as if she was hiding something. Every time she came back, she'd smile again, laugh at someone's joke, and act like nothing was wrong. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I tried to ignore it for most of the afternoon, convincing myself that I was reading too much into it. It was probably nothing. I mean, it was Rachel. Sweet, dependable Rachel. The idea that she could be hiding something serious seemed far-fetched, but that nagging feeling of doubt wouldn't go away. My eyes kept drifting back to her as the evening wore on, watching as she moved through the crowd, her face lit up by the glow of her phone. Later, as the sun began to set and people started to drift home, I found myself alone on the porch. Most of the family had gone inside or left already, and the atmosphere had quieted down. I sat there, sipping a beer, trying to shake the feeling that something was off. I could see Rachel from where I was sitting, standing in the garden, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone. She looked anxious, tapping out a message with a kind of intensity I hadn't seen all day. It was none of my business, I told myself again. Whatever was going on in her life, I had no right to pry. But then she left her phone on the kitchen counter when she went to help clean up inside. I don't know what came over me, but something told me to take a look. It wasn't out of curiosity or nosiness. It was a gut instinct that something bigger was at play. When I picked up her phone, I felt a knot form in my stomach. I didn't want to be the guy snooping through someone's personal stuff, especially not a family member's. But my gut wouldn't let me put it down. My heart pounded as I unlocked the screen. It was open to a text conversation with someone named T. I wasn't prepared for what I saw next. The messages were shocking, filled with flirtatious banter, intimate jokes, and the kind of suggestive comments that no married woman should be exchanging with someone who wasn't her husband. My hands shook as I scrolled through the chat, realizing the depth of what was going on. Rachel was having an affair, and T was clearly more than just a friend or coworker. I stood frozen, staring at the screen, feeling a mix of anger, disgust, and confusion. How could Rachel do this to Jake? My cousin had no idea. He had spent the whole day laughing, grilling burgers, and talking about how lucky he was to have such a great family. The thought of his perfect world coming crashing down because of Rachel's betrayal made my stomach churn. I couldn't bring myself to confront Rachel right then and there. I didn't know what to say or how to react. Instead, I quietly placed the phone back on the counter, trying to act like I hadn't just stumbled across the secret that could tear their marriage apart. The weight of the secret. The next few days were a blur. I tried to act normal every time I saw Jake and Rachel, but the knowledge of what I'd uncovered was eating me alive. Every time I looked at Jake, all I could see was the betrayal he was blind to. I kept telling myself it wasn't my place to get involved, but the more time passed, the more I realized that staying silent made me complicit in Rachel's deceit. Jake and I had always been close. We grew up together, went to college together, and even started working at the same firm after graduation. He wasn't just my cousin, he was like a brother to me. The idea of watching his life unravel without warning was unbearable. One afternoon, about a week after the barbecue, Jake and I were hanging out after work, having a few beers at the local bar we always went to. He seemed to be in a great mood, talking about a family vacation he and Rachel were planning, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. I couldn't take it anymore. "Jake," I said, interrupting him mid-sentence. "I need to talk to you about something serious." He stopped talking, looking at me with a puzzled expression. "What's going on?" My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to find the right words. "It's about Rachel. I don't know how to say this, but she's been hiding something from you." Jake frowned, the smile fading from his face. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath and told him everything. I told him about what I'd seen on Rachel's phone, about the messages with T, and about how long it had been going on. As I spoke, I watched the color drain from his face, his expression turning from confusion to anger to disbelief. When I finished, Jake sat in stunned silence for what felt like an eternity. Then, without a word, he stood up, threw some cash on the table, and walked out of the bar. I didn't follow him. I knew he needed time to process what I had just told him, and I wasn't sure how he would react once the shock wore off. Confrontation. 2 days later, Jake called me. His voice was shaky, filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "She admitted it," he said, his words barely above a whisper. "She's been seeing him for almost a year." I didn't know what to say. I could hear the pain in his voice, the betrayal cutting through every word. "I'm sorry, man," I said, knowing it wasn't enough. The fallout. Over the next few weeks, Jake and Rachel tried to rebuild their marriage. They went to counseling, talked about their issues, and tried to figure out where things had gone wrong. Rachel seemed genuinely remorseful, doing everything she could to prove that she was committed to making their relationship work. They were constantly in and out of therapy, their days consumed with emotional sessions and trying to mend what had been broken. Rachel made every effort to demonstrate her commitment to the relationship, including giving up her phone and becoming more transparent about her whereabouts. Despite her efforts, the trust between them was shattered. I would occasionally see Jake and Rachel around town. Jake looking worn out and Rachel looking hopeful but anxious. Their interactions were strained, and the joy that once characterized their relationship was noticeably absent. Jake seemed to be trying to put on a brave face, but it was clear that the road to recovery was going to be long and arduous. Reflection. Seeing Jake go through this has been one of the most painful experiences of my life. It's hard to watch someone you care about suffer, especially when it's because of something that could have been avoided. I often think about how different things could have been if I hadn't noticed the small signs, or if I had chosen to ignore them. It made me realize how delicate trust is and how easily it can be broken. Even though Jake and Rachel are trying to work things out, there's no going back to the way things were. Their relationship has been fundamentally changed by Rachel's betrayal, and the scars of what happened will always be there. As for me, I still grapple with the decision to come forward with what I knew. I don't regret telling Jake the truth, but I wonder if there was a better way to handle it. The fallout has affected everyone involved, and it's a reminder that secrets, no matter how carefully hidden, have a way of coming to light. In the end, I hope Jake and Rachel can find a way to rebuild their lives, whatever that may look like for them. The road ahead is uncertain, and their relationship may never be the same. But as they navigate this painful journey, they are doing so with the knowledge that sometimes even the most perfect lives are hiding imperfections we can never fully understand. When I accidentally uncovered Laura's secret, I never imagined that one discovery would unravel the very fabric of my best friend's life and turn our once perfect world upside down. The discovery. It was an unseasonably warm Saturday in late October when I drove to my best friend Mark's house for what was supposed to be a casual family barbecue. Mark and I had been inseparable since college, and over the years, his wife Laura and their 2 children had become like family to me. Their home was a sanctuary of joy and laughter, a refuge from my own sometimes tumultuous personal life. The day started as expected. Mark was manning the grill, expertly flipping burgers and hot dogs while the kids frolicked in the backyard, playing with friends. Laura was busy preparing salads, setting up drinks, and ensuring everything was in order for the gathering. The atmosphere was vibrant, with everyone in high spirits. As I was helping Mark clear some old furniture from the basement to make space for additional guests, I noticed a crumpled piece of paper wedged beneath an old couch. It looked out of place amidst the party preparations. Curiosity got the better of me, and I carefully unfolded the note. It contained an address, a date, and a time, with a single initial, L. Immediately, my instincts told me that this note was significant. It didn't seem to fit the context of our barbecue, and the initial L pointed towards Laura. Despite my reservations, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was amiss. I decided to investigate the address listed, hoping it would lead to something benign. The investigation. The address led me to an old, run-down warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building was dilapidated, with broken windows and walls covered in graffiti. The area was deserted, adding to the eerie atmosphere surrounding the place. On the evening specified in the note, I parked my car a few blocks away and approached the warehouse on foot. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the distant hum of city traffic. I watched from a distance as several cars arrived, each parking discreetly away from the entrance. My heart raced when I saw Laura's car pull up. Laura glanced around nervously before slipping inside. I waited a few moments before following, trying to remain as inconspicuous as possible. As I reached the entrance, I noticed a small crack in the door that allowed me to peer inside. What I saw was shocking and disturbing. Laura was seated at a table with a man I didn't recognize. Their body language was intimate and affectionate. They leaned in close, shared whispers, and their gestures indicated a deep connection. When they embraced, it was clear their relationship was not just friendly. It was romantic. The sight of Laura, someone I had always admired, in such a compromising situation was heart-wrenching. I left the warehouse with a heavy heart, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of the betrayal I had just witnessed. The revelation. In the following days, I struggled with the weight of my discovery. I knew that Mark deserved to know the truth, but I wanted to ensure I had enough evidence to present to him. I continued to observe Laura's behavior, noting her late-night phone calls, sudden absences, and frequent unexplained outings. Every time Laura left the house, she would meet with the same man from the warehouse. I meticulously documented these meetings, taking photos and recording the dates and times. The evidence started to paint a clear picture of an ongoing affair. The moral dilemma I faced was immense. On one hand, I wanted to protect my friend from the painful truth. On the other hand, I feared the consequences of revealing such a betrayal without solid proof. I decided that presenting Mark with undeniable evidence was the only way to ensure he had the information needed to make an informed decision. The confrontation. After gathering substantial evidence, I decided it was time to confront Mark. I invited him over for a casual evening under the guise of catching up. Mark and I had always been able to talk about anything, but this conversation would be different. I needed to approach the subject with care while presenting him with the facts. As we enjoyed a few drinks and reminisced about old times, I gradually steered the conversation toward the troubling topic. I explained that I had come across something disturbing, and needed to show him the evidence. Mark's initial confusion turned to shock as I presented the photographs and detailed accounts of Laura's secret meetings. Mark's reaction was one of disbelief, anger, and profound sadness. He was silent for a long time, his face a mixture of pain and shock. The hurt in his eyes was palpable, and it was clear that he was struggling to process the enormity of the betrayal. I offered him my support and suggested that he take the time he needed to come to terms with the information and decide on the best course of action. The confrontation. The confrontation that followed was emotionally charged and intense. Mark confronted Laura with the evidence I had provided. The argument that ensued was filled with raw emotion. Laura admitted to the affair, explaining that she had felt unfulfilled and disconnected in their marriage. She expressed deep regret and a desire to make amends, but the damage was already done. Mark was devastated. The betrayal was deeply personal, and the trust that had once defined their marriage was shattered. Their home, which had been a haven of love and stability, became a battleground of hurt feelings and unresolved anger. Laura decided to move out, leaving Mark to navigate the complexities of separation while trying to support their children. The impact on their kids was significant. They were thrust into a world of confusion and emotional turmoil. Mark faced the challenging task of balancing his role as a father with his own personal grief. The fallout. In the months following the separation, Mark faced numerous challenges. Adjusting to life as a single parent was difficult, and the emotional strain was immense. Mark poured his energy into providing a stable and nurturing environment for his children, working hard to maintain some sense of normalcy despite the upheaval in his personal life. Laura, on the other hand, was forced to confront the consequences of her actions. The end of her marriage prompted a period of self-reflection and transformation. She began a new chapter, attempting to rebuild her life, but the emotional scars of the affair lingered. Her relationship with her children also suffered as they adjusted to the new reality. For me, the experience was a harsh lesson in the fragility of trust and the impact of hidden secrets. I grappled with feelings of guilt and regret, knowing that my actions had significantly altered Mark's life. Despite the pain and complexity of the situation, I believed that revealing the truth was ultimately the right thing to do. The aftermath. As time passed, Mark slowly began to heal and rebuild his life. The separation, while painful, eventually led to a period of growth and renewal. Mark focused on his children and his own personal development, finding a new sense of purpose and stability. The experience, though deeply challenging, became a catalyst for positive change in his life. Laura's journey was also one of self-discovery. The end of her marriage forced her to reevaluate her life choices and relationships. She worked on rebuilding her life and sought personal growth, but the repercussions of her actions remained a constant reminder of the past. For Mark, the ordeal was a testament to his strength and resilience. Despite the profound hurt and disruption caused by the betrayal, he found a way to move forward and create a new chapter in his life. The experience highlighted the complexities of relationships and the crucial importance of honesty and trust. Reflections. Reflecting on the entire experience, I realized the profound impact that hidden secrets and betrayals can have on the lives of those involved. The journey through this ordeal was a test of character and friendship, revealing both the fragility of trust and the strength of the human spirit. Mark's ability to navigate the emotional turbulence and emerge stronger was a testament to his resilience. The pain of betrayal and the process of healing were long and arduous, but Mark's focus on his family and his own growth ultimately led to a more stable and fulfilling life. Laura's journey, though marked by regret and self-reflection, was also one of transformation. The end of her marriage forced her to confront her actions and their consequences, leading to a period of personal growth and change. In the end, the experience was a powerful reminder of the importance of honesty, the complexities of human relationships, and the strength required to overcome the challenges that life presents. The bonds of friendship, family, and trust were tested, but they also demonstrated their enduring power to heal and rebuild.